making this a real regular thing now, and we're not going to keep going on about being a regular thing. It's a bit boring, really, isn't it? Someone actually mentioned on one of the little shorts that I put out that talking about the knowledge was getting boring. And I thought, the comment was, it's getting boring now. And I thought, well, why are you listening to a taxi podcast then? You think it's
because you could deem anything that we talk about as being boring.
Yeah.
It is inherently a taxi podcast. I think you've got to cover all bases, because there's going to be knowledge students coming up, and I'm sure taxi topics to knowledge students somewhat interesting, but also not so interesting because they're not in it. They don't know it. It's all about the knowledge. So yeah, I think you've got to make it as you got to do the whole process. It's like saying talking about rental cabs are boring. We both own cabs. Why are we talking about rentals?
Why are we talking about rental cabs? No one will rent a cab.
It's the whole industry, right?
Yeah. So what we're going to be talking about this week, we're going to be talking about a warning to drivers dropping off in Smith Square. Albert Bridge closure, possibly for 18 months. Taxis and private hire vehicles may possibly not be exempt from the pay per mile EVED, as they're calling it. We're also going to be talking about London and taxi private hire driver delays, licence delays, and going to be left to TfL. The fact that TfL are going to rejig and taxis and private hire into a new department and losing the word taxis, which is never a good thing, to be honest with you. And a lot more as well we're going to be talking about, and Tom's going to be talking about a stained glass window in this episode as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to reveal that now, because that was at the end of the last episode. I asked you, the humble viewers, listeners, which London church, presumably it's probably going to be City of London more than likely, but where could you find a stained glass window that has an homage to golf? Golf is in the window is in Holy Sepulchre, or however you want to call it, pronounce it, sepulchre. What's the pronunciation there, Jamie?
I have no idea at all. And if you put it into Google, it'll give you an American translation of it, so it wouldn't be any good whatsoever.
I've heard it multiple ways. But that's the one right by what would have been, of course, Newgate Prison, Newgate Street, just opposite the Old Bailey there. So that's where you will find Golfer's Window.
I never knew that. Never knew that at all.
Nor did I till I read that book.
So, cab drivers dropping off in Smith Square. A little bit of a warning to cab drivers dropping off in Smith Square. Apparently there's been a lot of muggings around there lately, where cab drivers are setting down passengers and then being approached by a group of individuals trying to mug the cab driver, and possibly the passengers as well. Bit pointless mugging cab drivers these days, unless they're going to try to take your phone or something, because I can't remember the last time I did a job and got paid cash.
Yeah.
I really can't remember,
So rare now, rare.
It's getting rarer and rarer and rarer to be paid cash on a job, and I can't remember the last time I was paid cash on a job. So if you are dropping off in Smith Square, please be aware of your surroundings. And just watching Tom's camera.
My camera's going all over the place.
Just be aware of your surroundings, and keep those doors locked. And make sure your passengers manage to get into wherever they're going safely as well, because
apparently the police are aware of the situation, but they're not actively doing anything about it. They're just kind of going, a bit like most crime in London. It's like, well, we'll deal with it once it's kind of happened.
Well, then that's the problem with the police at the moment. They're not proactive. They're reactive, aren't they? And they need to start becoming proactive. It's no good just not doing anything about it. They need to be active and be in the area plainclothes, so that if they see someone committing these crimes, they can go and catch them. And then that would possibly eradicate the problem. But just going and reporting and saying, we'll make a report, here's your crime number, it's not going to solve the problem, isn't it?
It's just like, crime reference number, go contact your insurance details, off you go.
Wonderful. One thing I didn't mention, something that came up on Taxi Leaks this week. is that St Pancras to introduce pick-up and drop-off charging. Now, I'm going to read this out. We have recently received information that Camden Council are again currently working in conjunction with TfL to introduce pick-up and drop-off charging at St Pancras Station. Apparently, Camden Council have reopened a strategy under the banner of addressing congestion in the drop-off pick-up zones outside St Pancras International Station on Pancras and Midland Roads. The plan proposes charging for the use of certain lanes under the banner of improving traffic flow. This scheme was originally discussed back in 2016 but was shelved. We have now been informed by someone at Camden Council that the plans are now fully back on the table following the introduction of pick-up and drop-off fees at city airports. So, now, thing is with this is if they were to enforce no waiting there, because it isn't really a pick-up zone. If you want to pick someone up, you should be picking them up, parking in the car park. That's what car parks are for. We had this discussion last week about the driver that was trying to pick someone up on Terminal 3 at Heathrow Airport. It's supposed to be a drop-off zone. The problem is Camden have not enforced the set-down zone. Yeah, so you've got hundreds of private hire vehicles blocking up the area, which means when taxis and also private hire that are genuinely dropping off there try to set people down, you can't get anywhere near the drop-off zone. You have to double park, which is ridiculous. Now, if they enforced the parking restrictions there, they wouldn't need to make a drop-off or pick-up charge. And if they do that, I won't use the lane. I will set down in the middle of the road.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, again, it's like they'll go for the automatic option, because you'd like to think the revenue that they could get for someone who overstays the drop-off pick-up zone as it currently stands would possibly be... well, that's probably the equation, I guess. It probably isn't greater than nicking 2-3 quid every time a driver drops off. Yeah. They might as well go ANPR, okay, 2-3 quid, bosh, and it's just an instant revenue thing. Camden Council, my favourite. It's
everybody's
unreal.
favourite. The People's Republic of Camden.
It's absolutely mental.
It's ludicrous.
Everything. I mean, it's like I've said before about the whole stretch of, you go from the Aldwych all the way up to Euston Station, that whole stretch of Kingsway, Southampton Row, Russell Square, Upper Woburn Place. It's cameraed up. Every infraction you can do there, you will get done for. Another one that's coming recently, don't know if you've come across this, but Gordon Square is no more if you're coming from Gower Street.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So you've got to come all the way along and then do a left into...
You can get the right-hand side of Gordon Square,
but not the left.
And then you go up and then join in at Ensley Gardens.
Ensley Gardens, yeah.
And then right into Gordon Street. But that little bit by the Bloomsbury Theatre, no more.
So is that just closed as you go up or now, or is
it's one of those ones that's like no access, no fruit. You know the generic red circle, picture of a motorbike, picture of a car, no access for vehicles, or access only. Yeah,
it's one of them ideological. We don't want any traffic in London signs, basically.
I did one the other day in the city, like jumping around here now, I know, on subjects. But I dropped in one of those little, I guess they're small cul-de-sacs off of the Upper Thames Street, down near like the fire station there.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was. But as you turn into it, it's a cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah.
Big sign that says, access only. It's like, no shit. Like, what else am I going to be doing
there
here?
For, yeah.
I'm going to drive into the Thames, yeah.
Yeah. What am I going in there for? You know, I just like driving around in circles, really. So, you know, that's why I'm going in there. But, you know, it's
short cul-de-sac. Ridiculous. You can see the end of it. Yeah.
But the problem is that the bigger picture is with this. If Camden Council managed to get away with charging a set down and drop off fee at St Pancras Station, does that bring into question other stations, and will other stations follow suit?
Everywhere's going to do it.
And the thing is, now will we be allowed to put that on the meter? Because all it's effectively doing is increasing the charge to the customer in both taxis and private hire vehicles, which then in turn makes London a less attractive potential place for people to visit, both for business and for pleasure.
Yep. There's just the sheer knock-on effect of it. It's the same thing happened, I guess, many years ago with like parking restrictions in various areas. Lots of people I ever speak to say, oh yeah, I used to love driving up to London years ago. I could go park along the Victoria Embankment, have a day out in London. Presumably it was a weekend. I don't know what the exact parking restrictions were. But now it's so difficult to do that. You've really got to be quite savvy and know how to read the signs. And also congestion charging, things like that. It just puts people coming off here altogether.
Well, you can imagine coming in from South East, yeah. So you think I'll go up to London. I'm going to go through the Blackwall Tunnel. It's going to cost me like £4 each way, right?
Yeah.
So that's £8, and my car's only €5, so I've got to pay £12.50 ULEZ charge, and we're going to go into the centre of London. So I'm going to go through the congestion charge, which is now £18. So it's going to cost me £38.50 before I even park, just to get into London without the fuel.
Let alone even do the things you want to do in London.
Yeah. And you're going to think, no, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what people are going to think. We go somewhere else. So basically, all that these councils are actually doing is killing London. I mean, there was an article about a guy, I think he'd done a TikTok about a coffee shop on Camden High Street.
Yeah. There's a guy who I sort of follow him on Instagram, and he basically, young guy, he kind of thought, well, I'm going to be an enterprise and I'm going to set up a coffee shop, and I'll let you carry on with it. It's a great follow, by the way. He really breaks it all down.
Yeah, he basically said that when they announced that they was going to pedestrianise Camden High Street, he thought, right, that's it, let's go for it, let's invest. And he said it was an absolute disaster. He said the footfall coming into the shop dropped rather than increased. He said, and he's done his money, basically. It's cost him a lot of money, which is what, going back to what happened in Soho in the early 2000s when they pedestrianised it, and people were just saying, no, take me somewhere else. It's great in the summer when you can sit outside places, walk around, stroll around, but in the winter when it's pouring down with rain, and you've got to remember, we don't have sunshine and warm climate 12 months of the year. We only have it for a few months of the year. So it's no good planning an area for a few months and thinking, well, you make enough money in 3 months to last you the rest of the year. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have a rounded, cohesive plan in place that sustains businesses throughout the year, not just for a couple of months of the year. And it doesn't. They think they're pleasing the visiting public, in which in the end they're not, because they go elsewhere. So it can't be pleasing if they go elsewhere.
And the car parking sort of one I was referring to, the same happens there. Is that you would think, from a passenger perspective, it must be great for us taxi drivers, because people come into town now, we're taking them around in cabs because they can't get into the centre. But the trouble is they can't get in. Yeah. Years ago, I'm sure we would have done jobs or more jobs where people go, I'm just parked down on the embankment. Can you drop me down to my car? You're like, yeah, cool. They're more likely to hop in and get like a little a £10 job in a cab rather than like a 30 quid job, like to back home, or 40 quid, however much it is.
But yeah, it's worrying. If they do manage to bring this in, this is worrying. Really, this is concerning, because it could mean that all stations end up charging. The same as outside of London, where you have to have a station permit to actually go in the stations, and you may have to have a station permit to go in the stations. And this is something that we really don't want to happen in London, to be honest with you, because we want access. We should have access with taxis. We should have access to anywhere and everywhere. We should have access to all the bus lanes, and we should have access to the road infrastructure, which is really important to taxi drivers, because without roads, we can't do our job.
All London licence. Tell me, I'm not getting able to get to all of London. It'd be very interesting to map out. Someone do it, please. If you looked at all the roads that could have been available to us that are no longer available, what does that look like as a percentage? Because all would determine 100%.
Yep.
And, who knows what it's gone down to now with all these various ones. But imagine all these different costings that come in for, you got to pay to go to Camden, to drop off at St Pancras or King's Cross, and if you've got to pay for ones. The different charges they're going to have, because it's all different boroughs, so it's not going to be joined up. different time restrictions. We're going to have like a whole menu or map or some algorithm we have to punch in and go, well, how much do I put on the meter? How much do I charge there? And it's all well and good saying you could stick it on the meter, but then it still gets passed on somewhere. Everything is a tax. Everything's a tax. It's like when, it was last year or the year before when employer national insurance contributions had to go up. Yep. And everyone's like, well, it's my big boss who earns loads of money. He's got to pay for it. And it's like, no, you're not getting a pay rise now.
Yeah.
Because the employer has to. So it all comes from somewhere.
And also, that employer has said that he can't now afford to employ the person he was intending to employ because he was going to take on another member of staff, but he can't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah, or would have given him a pay rise. And people were like, oh, well, so it just affects the person who kind of needs it the most, which is it's that whole cyclical thing, and just everything now. You can call it a charge, you can call it a fine, whatever, but it's all a form of taxation. It's just bang,
definitely
bang, bang,
all
bang,
a form of taxation. So this is something that if it does come up and there is a consultation on it, both passengers and drivers need to fill out that consultation and say no, basically, because if you are a passenger that regularly travels to St Pancras station, you really, really need to say no, because these charges, we've already seen by Sadiq Khan's charge to go through the Blackwall Tunnel at £4, and then what did the Dartford Tunnel do immediately a month later? They put their charge up from £2.50 to, I think it's £3.50 or £4.
Might be £4 now, yeah.
So, they've put their charge up. So it's not going to be like, £1 or 50 pence.
Look at the other options as well. It's like some stations have like a lot of kind of, I guess, real estate or like roads around them where you can sort of maybe get away with dropping elsewhere. Yep. But when it comes to St Pancras and King's Cross, I'd imagine 90% of the jobs come from the Euston Road.
Yep.
Can you imagine how that's going to be if everyone's dropping off?
Nothing in the Euston Road.
At the Euston Road, the St Pancras Renaissance Hotel, I'm sure they're not going to be happy with it.
No.
That's
a great place to drop off for St Pancras, actually, the St Pancras Renaissance.
Just
up the top, through by the archery.
That's the pro move, isn't it?
Yeah. Shouldn't say too much about that because people are complaining that we're giving tips away and all of our secrets. Don't do that. So don't give all of our secrets away. No. So, if the consultation comes out, make sure you fill it in and say no to that. We definitely want to say no to that one. What else was we going to talk about, Tom? I've forgotten now.
You sort of introduced it all, so I was hoping you'd kind of round it all together. There was quite a bit in there. So let's talk about number of private hired licences that have been revoked in both London and Wolverhampton. I don't know much about this. 3 months in I think it was the last 3 months of last year. I think it was sort of September or September to November. Wolverhampton had 17 private hire licences revoked. Yeah. For crimes that were not committed in Wolverhampton. They were committed for offences committed in other areas outside of Wolverhampton. Now, you've got to remember that Wolverhampton have got the highest concentration of private hire vehicles anywhere in the UK. I'm just looking now. It was City of Wolverhampton Council, which gives out the largest number of taxi licences in England, has licensed 33,893 private hire vehicles in 2025 compared to just 10,000 in 2020.
Yeah, I think they've got something like one private hire vehicle for every 1,000 people that live in Wolverhampton.
That's my next question.
It's a ridiculous number. So it's quite obvious that now this brings us on to a point that we was talking about.
281,000 as of 2024.
Yeah.
So there's 33,000 private hire vehicles. Quick scratch pad maths. That's one. Yeah, that's one private hire vehicle for every 9 people.
For every 9 people.
I believe that's correct. Yeah, that's my quick scratch pad maths. No. Yeah.
So this is something we was talking about when we was chatting the other day. So basically, this has just become a cash cow for Wolverhampton Council, and if you've got a Wolverhampton licence, it basically isn't worth the paper it's written on, because the vast majority of Wolverhampton licensed vehicles are not working in Wolverhampton. There just isn't the work there for that number of Wolverhampton licensed private hire vehicles. So they're obviously working in other areas outside of Wolverhampton around the rest of the UK, where the licensing offices in them other cities and towns have no jurisdiction over those private hire vehicles. Yeah, so that brings into question, what's the point of the licence?
Yeah.
What is the point of the licence? And, you've got the same scenario in London. We've got 110,000 licensed private hire drivers. Yeah. Not all of them work in London. We've got London TfL licensed private hire drivers working in Chatham, Strood, Rochester, Canterbury, Maidstone. The licensing officers down here have no jurisdiction over those. So what is the point of private? This has basically taken private hire licensing, this cross-border hiring has taken private hire licensing back to the days when it used to be considered to be the Wild West in London, where there was no licensing of private hire drivers because no one wanted to license them.
Well, you're almost better off with those kind of Wild West days because you knew they're not licensed, you're taking it in your own hands, the police can give them a strong slap on the wrist, but now it's almost unsafer because, as you say, Wolverhampton aren't going to have any say of what happens in London or whatever because they're not really particularly interested.
Yep.
Police will just go, well, he's a licensed driver, someone's covered it, so we'll wait until the operator or the council comes to us and then we'll intervene.
And TfL enforcement officers standing on St Pancras station giving private hire drivers a tug. Wolverhampton driver pulls up.
What can we do?
They can't even stop him. They have no jurisdiction to stop him at all. They can't even speak to him, really. They can say to him, you shouldn't be doing that, but you can say, up yours, because cross-border hiring allows it. Yeah. And it's a ridiculous situation where we've got these drivers that are licensed all over the place working in areas that they're not licensed for.
Yeah.
Of which, where no one's got any jurisdiction over them, no control over them. There's no control. I mean, we've got licensed private hire drivers. Look at all the V-Class Mercedes running around in central London now. We've got 24, 25, 75 plate V-Class diesel Mercedes vehicles driving around in London, working as private hire vehicles or chauffeur vehicles or whatever, obviously not licensed by Transport for London because Transport for London will no longer license a diesel vehicle. So they're all licensing in other areas, places like Hertsmere, where the licensing is a lot easier. And then because there's no benefit to licensing with Transport for London anymore, they just come into London, carry on working as they was when they were licensed for Transport for London, because they had to pay the congestion charge then, and they have to pay the congestion charge now. So it makes no difference to them whatsoever, except they haven't got Transport for London breathing down their neck all the time. Hertsmere just license them, take their money and let them get on with it. And that's it.
Yeah. And so you've got to think this is lost revenue as well for Transport for London. And it's obviously we won't know the exact figure, but I wonder how much of this might have been born out of the fact that Transport for London, and this is another agenda item we was going to bring up here, was, unable to process the sheer volume of applications of people wanting to be private hire drivers.
Yeah,
we heard of the case of drivers who were unable to be relicensed, unable to cover their outgoings and stuff. There was the private hire driver that sadly took his life over this, and it then makes you think, well, if TfL were more efficient at processing this, would this have contained it a bit? People have obviously gone, well, I want to work, I want to go out and earn £1 note, but TfL are taking forever to give me a licence. What's my other options? And obviously this is another option that's appeared.
Well, you've got on TikTok, you've got the company that call themselves the Taxi Academy in Uxbridge that are saying if you can't get licensed by Transport for London, we've got the Wolverhampton option. And, it'd take you sort of 3 days to get your licence.
Well, it also circumvents to a degree as well the idea that TfL didn't want to license was it Bolt or was it Lyft?
It was Lyft. They didn't want a license. Yeah.
So I'm not too sure actually there what I'm. But in theory, what that would then mean, it's like, well, again, it's another loophole that if there's a certain platform that comes out that TfL say we don't want our private hire drivers in London are not allowed to work on that platform.
Yeah.
But Wolverhampton give it the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Well, these Wolverhampton drivers have then got their own little exclusive network they can work in London with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lyft is obviously now bought free now, so they have the in to working in London, even though they was refused a private hire licence by Transport for London when they originally applied for not being fit and proper.
Yeah.
But now obviously they bought free now. They're now fit and proper. So I don't know how that works, but all of a sudden, because they found the money to buy another operator, they've become fit and proper. But yeah.
So why is this topic important, Jamie? I want to kind of get this out there because obviously we're taxi drivers. If someone sort of was not from our ilk and they're going, well, why are we bothering talking about private hire? Surely we should just focus on what we do, you know? Right,
so forget the fact that we're taxi drivers and the fact that, you know, there's always been this animosity between private hire and taxi drivers in London to a certain extent. Around other parts of the country, you don't so much get it as much. You do in some places, some big cities, but there are places where a lot of drivers, they're all dual licensed anyway, so they can drive a private hire or a hackney. It doesn't matter to them. But the thing let's just take London as an example to start with. One of the things that the licensing of private hire did was gave them an air of credibility, because before that, they was not a really credible industry. You know, you had the likes of Addison Lee that were you know, very organised and managed to make inroads into sort of certain account customers and things like that. But none of the others did really, because they weren't licensed. And if an employer puts you in a vehicle that's unlicensed and you have an accident, you then become culpable as the employer, basically, because you're saying this is our approved supplier of vehicles, and you know, you're giving them the air of credibility. So a lot of employers refrain from using them, used to use taxis. Now, the reason this is important for the travelling public is when you get in a licensed private hire vehicle, you are under the assumption that that driver has been checked by the local licensing authority. If there are any issues, he could have his licence taken away by the local licensing authority, and you know, it gives you the supposed impression that they're licensed, they're insured, you're covered. Yeah, but if you've got a driver that's from another area that's working in London, that's not licensed in London.
I didn't even think of the insurance ramifications.
Yeah, it's
insurance is then invalid. Like, well, they ask you where are you licensed to work,
but it's not invalid as such because
well, it could be, but
it could be, but it's not invalid as such because your insurance never asks you. You know, I mean, ours does. Where are you licensed to work? London.
Yeah.
But with private hire, I don't think they really ask them where they're licensed. They might ask them where they're licensed, what their licensing authority is. But it doesn't contain them to working in that area. But it just means that the licensing means nothing. It has no value at all.
Yeah.
Because if I'm refused a licence by London, I'll just go to Wolverhampton. But then why have I been refused a licence by London? You know?
Yeah.
I'll just go to Wolverhampton and get licensed, or I'll go to Hertfordshire. You know, London's, the Sadiq Khan's refusing to licence diesel vehicles. That's why you can't licence a new V-Class diesel Mercedes.
Yeah.
But hang on, we've got V-Class diesel Mercedes working in London all the time.
That's what I think makes a mockery of the system, because it's like if we want to, you know, as we may or may not be with Sadiq Khan's various agendas on, like, you know, cutting the age limits on diesel taxis and that, but then it just slaps those drivers in the face of like, oh yeah, you're a taxi driver, you've got 3 years taken off of your diesel cab.
Yep.
Meanwhile, other people can come in and work. You know, it's...
Oh, you've got a diesel V-Class Mercedes that you just bought brand new. Well, we won't license in London, but if you go to Wolverhampton or Hertfordshire or somewhere like that, they'll license it for you, and then you can come into London and work anyway. So it basically makes a mockery of anything Sadiq Khan says or TfL says to do with licensing vehicles in London.
Yep.
Because if you license elsewhere, the age limit on a private hire vehicle in London with TfL is 10 years. It's 12 years in Wolverhampton.
Didn't know that, yeah.
Other areas are 15 years.
Yeah.
Some areas, there's no age limit as long as the vehicle passes and is in good condition.
Yeah.
So it just makes a mockery of the whole licensing system, to be honest with you.
So this might be a good sort of segue into one of our next points, which was TfL to rejig taxi and private hire into a new department, losing the word taxi.
Yes.
Have you got the name of the department there? I've seen it before.
I can look it up.
Basically, as far as I'm aware, that there's because obviously TfL is a huge organisation, and lots of these big organisations like to have little shuffle rounds and combine one compartment and department into another. And I believe, from what I heard, we're being lumped in with the
boats,
Greenwich cable car.
The cable car. and all sorts of things, which, to be honest with you, I mean, whenever there is a reorganisation of something, it, in my experience, never goes well. There's always creates more delays and things like that, which we could really do without, with regards to licence renewals and things like that. So this isn't a very welcome sort of thing. I'm just trying to find the actual article.
Basically, the name just didn't scream exactly what it does. I don't think private hires even including the name. It was like the compliance regulatory. It's something bizarre like that.
Yeah.
It just sounds like someone has gone into a corporate office and gone, what buzzwords have we got? We haven't used that one for a while. Let's put that one and that one together.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with cable car or transport or whatever. We'll have to put it in the show notes once we get it. I mean, I did have a little look. Yeah,
I can't find it now. It's actually, it did completely dropping the word taxi out of it. And I don't see how we can be taxi and private hire can be lumped in with cable cars, boats, and things like that. It's just ridiculous, really.
Yeah. You would think that. I mean, it was already problematic having taxi and private hire in the same realm because that caused a lot of confusion and
actually having taxi and private hire across the top of a private hire driver's licence because he then believes he's a taxi driver. Which we're not going to get into the argument of taxis and private hire, which I found quite funny during the week because I put a thing out saying, but I was talking about Waymo licensed vehicles, robo taxis, as they're called, or autonomous taxis, and I said, let's get one thing straight, they're not taxis because there's one thing that defines a taxi, and that is a taxi meter, and they do not have taxi meters and never will have taxi meters. Yeah?
Yeah.
A couple of cab drivers commented, they're taxis. People going to call them taxis, and, you're not going to get away from that. And, the taxi's a taxi, a cab is a cab. And I thought, it's probably that attitude that got us into this state in the first place, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's enshrined in law. Like, it's the same way that Uber and all their advertising, whenever they talk about private hire, and obviously they're a private hire platform, can't put the word taxi on their website. Obviously they can now because there is the function for taxi drivers to go onto Uber, so they can call themselves a taxi platform. But prior to that, they were unable to do so because it is, protected. It's
enshrined. A private hire vehicle cannot be called a taxi, basically. But let's not go down that route because we're going to open up an whole can of worms there. And we was talking about the licensing of private hire vehicles. But yeah, I basically, my personal opinion is that the fact that you can go anywhere in the country and get licensed and go and work anywhere else means that the licence you're getting isn't worth the paper it's written on. Basically, it's not worth anything. No matter, and this means that no matter how stringent the licensing of the area that you're licensed in is, how stringent that licensing regulation is, because drivers can go elsewhere and get licensed and work in the same area as you, it makes all private hire licenses basically worthless.
Yeah. And of course, it devalues the actual drivers in those areas who are working in those specific sectors and areas. So it does make you wonder if, because of the proliferation of private hire and app-based work, whether it then becomes something that is a lot more centralised across the UK. But I mean, fat chance of that ever happening.
Well, this is the thing that this they want to do, isn't it? Is come up with a national standard for private hire licensing. That's fine if every licensing officer in any area could stop any licensed vehicle from any other area.
Yep. Yeah, that is the sort of the one caveat here. Just who's going to do it, and you've got to have appropriate powers and laws to do it. I mean, even when we see checks within London, it's usually supported by the Met Police to be able to pull over a cab or a private hire vehicle for then TfL to then go do the checks. Obviously, they can do it when you're stopped at the station, but actually physically pulling you over in the road. Which is arguably where you need to be the most proactive with your enforcement, does require police and your local intervention.
Well, yeah, and as I say, if that's not going to be the case, then it still would make the licensing basically worthless. And it doesn't give the travelling public that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? The travelling public, the confidence in the service.
It's like a guarantee of safety, isn't it?
Yeah, you're guaranteeing safety of people. But 17 Wolverhampton drivers having their licences revoked for things that they did in other areas, it just proves that Wolverhampton are just licensing vehicles for the money, basically. It's a cash cow for them. It's basically become a cash cow.
One Wolverhampton vehicle for every 9 residents.
Yeah, is ridiculous.
if you double those numbers, then that's effectively a car per family. Basically.
Well, yeah, it means that nearly everybody in Wolverhampton is a licensed private hire driver. So it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, it's like in London now, though. You drive around in your cab and you're sitting there. Years ago, when I first started, you drove around and all you had around you was taxis. And you used to have the odd car with an aerial on the back, because the minicabs used to have aerials, didn't they, for the radio?
Right.
And the other thing was they never wanted to go too far away from their base.
Yeah.
Because of wherever their aerial was sited. If they went too far away, they wouldn't get no work. And the other thing, Mac the Cab used to own a minicab firm. Yeah. And as he said, he used to know all of his drivers because he knew all of their voices. So if someone different, if he called someone's call sign and someone different answered, he'd say, that's not Alpha 34. Yeah. They don't sound like Alpha 34s. Who's that? He'd know. These apps have no idea who's driving for them. It could have been the person originally that signed up for it, because they've got their documents, but how do they know who's driving the car at that time?
Yeah,
have no clue. And we already know that a lot of young women have said that the car they've got into is not the person whose picture is on the app.
Yeah,
which is worrying, really worrying. It means they're sharing licences. So if you've got 110,000 licensed private hire drivers in London, the likelihood is you've got probably about 150, 160,000 people that are actually driving private hire vehicles.
Oh, that's staggering to think. Oh dear. What can be done?
Well, yeah, exactly. What can be done? But I think we've been rabbiting on about that for long enough now anyway.
So what can be done with something else in London? And that's something else.
What's something else?
There. I was going to do a really good segue there, but I was going to let you segue it. What can be done about a particular river crossing? And no, it's not Hammersmith. It is.
No, it is Albert Bridge. Albert Bridge was closed last Monday, and originally it was thought it would be closed for 3 days while further inspections were undertaken. The council are now saying it could be closed for 18 months. Now, this is what we was originally told with Hammersmith Bridge. It was going to be closed for a few days for further inspections, and then it was going to be closed for 18 months. That was 7 years ago, and it still isn't open.
Yeah.
And are we going to be in the same situation with Albert Bridge? Now, Albert Bridge, I would say, is a far, far, far busier bridge than Hammersmith Bridge ever was.
Really?
Yeah. Really? Far, far busier bridge than Hammersmith Bridge.
Because obviously, Albert Bridge, you don't get the buses going over it.
No.
And obviously other big sort of loads and stuff. And of course, you've then got adjacent bridges. You know, Battersea sort of does a similar sort of thing. I would have said Hammersmith would have been a busier bridge, maybe, because it does kind of go quite neatly between, you know.
Yeah, it did. But
and then
towards the end of when it was open, it was you was only allowed one bus across at a time, and if a bus was coming across, the traffic lights would stop all other traffic, and there was never a traffic jam at each end of the bridge really for that long.
True. Yeah.
So whereas on Albert Bridge, you do get a lot of traffic on Albert Bridge, even though it's only cars, and it is a major route for people travelling from Chelsea to Clapham, Battersea, places like that, and it's going to have a knock-on effect on Battersea Bridge that was already heavily congested coming north, and of course Chelsea Bridge as well, which is probably the busiest out of the three of them. I would have said Chelsea Bridge. It's going to have a knock-on effect on that as well. But when you consider that from the embankment, you can't turn onto Chelsea Bridge anymore, can you? So
no.
If you're coming along, you know, Chelsea embankment,
you can turn right onto it, but that's the only movement.
So that's the only you can take. So you can't. It's not as if you can come along sort of Chelsea embankment and turn left onto Chelsea Bridge instead of turning left onto Albert Bridge. You can't do that.
No, and that's going to add more pressure to all those people that want to get over Battersea Bridge, because it's like, oh, I can't turn left. Well, they won't be looking; they'll be looking at the sat-nav, but they'll go, and they're like, oh, can't use that bridge. Can't use that bridge.
Or you've got to turn right and go up Pimlico Road and come all the way round and back down Ebury Street and back, and all the way back Ebury Bridge Road and come back down Chelsea Bridge Road and back over Chelsea Bridge. And what's Chelsea Bridge Road going to be like?
Yeah, it's not good at the best of times.
It's going to be a no-go area.
Yeah.
So this really needs to be expedited and sorted as quickly as possible, or reinstate the left turn from Chelsea Embankment onto Chelsea Bridge.
Yeah.
Be sensible. Use your brains and reinstate the left turn. Reinstate all turns.
That won't, though. That won't. Because the trouble is that's a very popular cycle route along there, sort of in the evening. Really quite popular. And, of course, because, you know, it's popular for 1 or 2 hours of the day, that will dictate, if you include the morning. Well, no, because the mornings won't be affected because it's going the other way in the morning. Yeah, so just for 1 or 2 hours of the day, the remaining 22 hours of the day will have to suffer.
Yep, exactly. So, and that comes from a man who likes cycling as well. So, yeah.
I think you've got to balance everyone's needs, right? Obviously, there's a big explosion of cycling in London, so you can't refute
the easy solution, don't you?
What's that?
Have a timed no left turn on there.
Yeah. I don't get why we can't do more junctions like that.
Yeah, intelligent junctions. We used to have intelligent traffic lights in London where if nothing was coming one way and a car was coming the other way, they would turn green for that person, but they've all been taken away.
Or in rush hour, like, you know, prioritise more cyclists to get clear of the junction, and then get clearer junctions. And, you know, I've said it many times before, like, it's actually, sometimes it's much, as long as it's not a really blatant jump of a red light, when you see cyclists who anticipate the red light or it turning green but then jump it before, perfect, you know, because they're safely clear of the junction, recomposure. They just need to just keep everything moving, really. It's as detrimental for them to stop as it is any other traffic to stop, really. So exactly. Let's not over-engineer these junctions. Let them, you know, to a degree, jump lights. No, there's gonna be people going like, "Oh, you're such a lefty, Tom. You love cycling and stuff." It's like, no, it's just about keeping it moving. No different than if you're driving down the road and there's a car in the oncoming direction that wants to pull over your lane into a side junction. If you've got the availability to let them go, because you're freeing up the traffic coming the other direction. Could be cabs, there could be any manner of traffic stuck there.
Yep.
Just keep it all going, baby. Just
exactly. Keep it all moving. Keep the whole thing flowing.
Yes.
Every journey matters.
Every journey in tatters.
Or does it? So apparently, taxi and private hire vehicles will not be exempt from the pay per mile EVED. And it's going to be on your calculated, apparently, from your MOT mileage between one MOT and the next. They believe you'll be able to pay it monthly. Basically, your what you're going to have to pay will be calculated on what your previous year's mileage was, and you could pay that over a monthly sort of direct debit with an adjustment at the end of the year. Sounds like income tax, doesn't it? I have issues with this.
Now I'm thinking about it, I'm sort of having less issues about it.
Well, I've got issues with it, right? Because the reason I've got issues with it, because they're saying hybrid vehicles will pay 1.5p per mile, and fully electric vehicles will pay 3 pence per mile. So obviously the 3 pence per mile is what they've calculated as being the lost revenue from you buying diesel or petrol, or you using electricity. Yeah, so that 3 pence per mile. So you've got an electric taxi and I've got an electric taxi. What's the maximum amount you can get out of a charge on your taxi?
60.
What's the maximum range on your taxi?
I don't know, 180 is it? No.
Right, so mine will do, maximum I'll get out of the battery on mine is 80 miles. The maximum range on it is 350 miles.
Yep.
Yeah? Which means, yeah, the electric is a very small percentage of what the total range of my vehicle is.
Yeah.
So by the time I drive in, drive home, and work in London, the time spent on electricity is actually less than 50%.
Yes.
A lot less than 50%. So why should I pay 1.5p per mile? Because I'm still paying the duty on the fuel and on petrol.
Yeah, that's where the hybrid calculation is going to be very strange, isn't it?
It's going to be really out, completely out. Because a lot of hybrid cars have only got a range of 40 miles, but they might have a total range of 400 or 500 miles.
I feel like this is going to be intentional, because I swear like a lot of tax bans in history did this, like especially cars, where they'll release a tax ban. Like, I know it used to be the oldest one I can remember, or like the most prominent one I can remember is probably around the year 2000s, 99 or whatever, because I had a car in that sort of age range, was that if it was like, it was basically up to 1.6, then over 1.6 in terms of engine size. Yeah. And then they then realised 2 years later or a few years later, oh no, hold on a minute, that's probably not the best way to calculate these tax bans. Let's go, and they keep fiddling around with it, but I think in the meantime, they kind of let it slip through, collect the revenue, and then go, oh no, we fucked up there. Like when the electric cab first came out, the fact that it was classed as a luxury vehicle, well, that nearly let slip for a little while, didn't it? And then, of course, successful lobbying had to go, well, it's not really a luxury vehicle, it's the only vehicle we can have. Yep. So you can't go on the basis of the price of the vehicle. But yeah, this hybrid one's going to open a whole can of worms.
It's going to open a whole can of worms. It's also going to be open to a lot of skullduggery as well, I think, because there are people out there that can get into the ECUs in these vehicles and alter the mileage. So I think there'll be a lot of private hire vehicles that may do 10,000 miles a year rather than the true mileage of probably 60,000 miles a year, you know?
Yeah.
So you can't do it on a taxi. So it's you can't clock it.
I mean, it sort of makes sense because it is, in terms of actual road tax usage, it's like the old argument of like, oh, cyclists don't pay any road tax, you're using the road and stuff like that. But it is... that's not related to my point entirely. Anyway, skip that. So I'm kicking the camera there. It does make sense because it's the more you use the road, the more you're responsible for your share of road tax. So
Yeah.
I kind of get it. I get it when you look at that as the objective of it, because at first
But they're not going to do away with the road tax. You're still going to have to pay road tax as well.
That's what I mean. Is road tax going to be reflected in this? Like, that's just the subscription of being a road user. It is like the subscription Amazon model of like you've got to pay your road tax,
subscription based,
even if you don't do it or not. But then your mileage, your usage, and you're like, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But when you look at it, I did a quick scratch pad maths there. I mean, what did you say? It was like 1.5p if it's hybrid. Yeah,
and 3p if it's fully electric.
So I've just done a middle of the road calculation there at 2p. If you do 25,000 miles a year, that's £500.
Yeah.
It's not a small amount of money.
No.
That's like 50 quid, more than 50 quid a month, yeah.
And the thing is, say, I'll go and do a Stone Engine bath tour, right? I do 350 miles in a day, and I use 70 miles of electric. I've already paid the duty on the other miles, on the other 280 miles, but they're saying I'm going to have to pay 1.5p per mile on that 350 miles. But I've paid it.
Yeah.
So why should I pay it again?
Yeah.
What about the drivers that drive electric taxis around on petrol all the time and don't charge?
There should be some sort of way of offsetting it. In the same way of your own personal tax allowance, you go, well, hold on a minute, I've got this phone. Some of it's used for personal use. I can't claim that. Some of it is used for business use, and you kind of offset a proportion of it based upon what you've done there. And the same thing should be there, because you'll have full receipts for your petrol. So you could say, well, hold on a minute, of these miles, based upon the MPG of my vehicle. But that gets crazy.
You know the answer to that, don't you? Is you don't. If you didn't work, you wouldn't have a mobile phone. So it's purely business use. You only got a mobile phone because of work.
There you go. There you go. My screen time will say something else.
All that doom scrolling through TikTok
Instagram
and
the lot.
Tell me
Sudoku puzzles at the airport.
Yeah, you can sit there losing hours, can't you? Do you know the funny thing is, me and Tom have done a video which will be coming out soon, but we should have done the show at the airport. We had plenty of time to do it, didn't we?
So much time.
We could have recorded 8 shows while we was there.
Oh, mate. So what we're talking about here, both Jamie and I went to the airport simultaneously at roughly the same sort of time.
Yep.
To start off with, and then we decided to do it during school holidays, the February school holidays.
Yep.
So if you're in the cab driving fraternity, you'll probably know that's a very bad idea because of how slow the airport moves. So
extremely.
It was a long day for both of us and not a lot of money.
No.
But you have to see what the full results of that was, because it was.
I'm not going to say.
It was quite a good experiment. It was a very. It was
really good. Yeah, really good. We're going to do it again as well, aren't we? In the summer when we put our mankinis on, and get our deck chairs out.
Well, I went back to the airport yesterday and I got through it in 2.5 hours.
I saw that.
I know, it's like Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? Going back to your captors because you develop an affection for them, and the place that enslaved me and then captured me on Wednesday. Yeah. I went back there on my own accord on Thursday.
So, we're getting a tariff increase, and we're already getting slated in the press for it already. It's not massive.
No.
It's 2.8%, which is actually below the rate of inflation, actually. And bearing in mind this is on the previous year, not on this year, because our tariff increase is always 12 months behind all the time. Yeah. And with a 20 pence increase on the flagfall, which is the minimum charge to get in a taxi, which when you think that most private hire vehicles or private hire companies charge a minimum of £5 or £10, and to get into an £85,000 taxi with the most highly qualified taxi driver in the world will only cost you, at the moment, £4.20.
Let's not forget rickshaws, which is going to be a starting fare of £5.
£5, yeah, £5 for a rickshaw. We'll come on to that in a moment. £5 for a rickshaw. Or maybe we'll leave that to next week's show. Because
we'll leave that to next week's show.
Because we're coming up on the hour at the moment. And people have said we should keep it under the hour, haven't they? So, so we're not getting a massive increase, 2.8%, but there's already been articles in the Standard, and they're linking it to the decrease in numbers of taxi drivers. Apparently, the number of taxi drivers in London is hit a 50-year low. So
I got quite excited when I saw that article. Someone put it in a not a cab chat group, but like just any work traffic update group, and it was the article was something along the lines of taxi fares hiked to address industry like low numbers or something, you know. And I was kind of like, woohoo, what have we got here then? Like, am I going to be better off? No, 2.2%. Like, we had bigger ones like previously, and obviously
and no one said anything.
Yeah, like, and obviously the bigger ones previously was because of the high inflation, because of the fact that we didn't have a meter update for a while and stuff like that. This is just, as you say, it's just kind of in line with inflation.
It's not even in line with
inflation. Not even in line with inflation.
It's not even in line with inflation. It's 2.8%, and the flagfall's going up by 20 pence. That's basically it. So it's going to start at £4.40 when we've been saying that the flagfall should start at £5 for years. But well, I mean, back years ago, we were saying the flagfall should have been £4, and it's only just, 2 tariff increases ago that it went up to £4.
Yeah,
it's still £3 something before.
Well, here's another one that possibly needs updating: is the soiling charge of the cab.
Well, yeah,
it's been £60 for years now. I mean, I know people aren't generally sick in the cab, but it could be other means. But it's been £60 for years. And when I put a video up on Shorts, I had loads of other taxi drivers across the country saying, "Oh, ours is 120, ours is 100, whatever." And you think,
listen, £60 wouldn't even you wouldn't even be able to take it into a car wash and get them to clean it out for £60.
Yeah,
without your loss of time. Yeah, it should be £120. If someone's going to be sick all over the back of your cab, it should be £120, because basically that's your night, your evening, your shift finished completely.
Done. Yeah,
it's done, and you then got to take it somewhere, get it cleaned out. And a lot of these car washes now, all they do is get the jet wash and in the back. I don't want that in the back of my cab, really. And then you're still finding bits.
And it still smell of it.
Still smell of it, yeah. Yeah, I've got some really good stuff that neutralises that, but it was in the back boot of my TX4, actually. It's in the garage somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's not been in the back of this one. So, yeah. But yeah, it's not a massive fare increase. So, yeah.
On to your point, obviously what they were mentioning in the article, I'm going to really briefly quickly mention it because it's just come up. Wizan had an open day on the 14th, I believe. Might have been February the 14th.
Yep.
To attract new people to the trade, come have an introductory talk. They, from what I saw, was a young lady who put a short out on TikTok, on Instagram or whatever, saying that she's going to learn to become a cab driver.
Yep.
They were anticipating about a dozen people to come to that.
How many turned up?
Close to 50.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. I know Dean's been promoting that, and that's really good. And I'm hoping by the next time we record that I'm going to actually get rid of this cough, because I've got a cold sore at the moment. As you can see, my lip's bleeding at the moment, so because I keep biting it. One quick thing before we finish up for today. Apple Podcasts have just announced this spring they're going to be including video in podcasts. So I should imagine that's going to be very similar here, better late than never, since they, it was Apple were really the instigators of podcasting. They didn't invent it, but they were instigators of podcasting and carrying it forward. So I should imagine it's going to be something similar to what YouTube's got at the moment, where you can click on audio or on video as well.
Yeah, Spotify do it as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we're linked to Spotify in the same way, but...
not yet.
With video, yeah.
Yeah, we are on Spotify if you want to listen to us on... We're on everything. Yep. We're on Spotify, we're on Deezer, we're on loads and loads of things. You can listen to us via the website, Captivate, via Apple Podcasts, your favourite podcast app, YouTube, anywhere. But when Apple Podcasts do put the video feature in, I would imagine what's uploaded via Captivate will go through to Spotify. So
I'd like to think so, yeah.
The video thing will go, but at the moment all I upload is the audio file, so...
Yep. I also want to mention, we might accidentally run over by the hour by a minute or so, but before it gets too late, because I should have mentioned it at the top of the show, Be Lucky Paddle Club.
Oh, I meant to mention that earlier. Yeah, because you went there yesterday.
Yep.
Yesterday.
So, joint initiative between Be Lucky Paddle Club, Jump, and HP Taxi. They had a kind of a trial day to get cab drivers into the wonderful sport that is paddle. If you've never come across it, it's kind of like a combination of squash and tennis. It's generally played in doubles, so it's not quite as intense as squash in terms of how much you're running around and more likely to roll an ankle. And it's far less faff than tennis because you can bounce it off the back walls, etc. like that. So do go follow it. It's I think it's William of Be Lucky who's a cab driver. We had it was between 24 and 30 cab drivers who turned up to this one in Ilford, literally just off the Redbridge roundabout. I'm hoping it's going to be a permanent fixture because that works perfect. If you're an A12 driver or an M11 driver, spot on. Like you can do it on your way to work. We met about 11, played for a couple of hours. There was professional coach in there. Just great to have some sort of social club in the cab with other cab drivers. Free parking there, loads of parking, coffee facilities, shower facilities. If you want to know any more about it, just go find Be Lucky Paddle, go find Paul Byron of HP Taxis because he loves playing paddle, or just give me a message and I can give you all the relevant links and socials because I want to do it again. So good.
So who started it? Was it Paul that started it, or was it somebody else that started it?
So Paul goes to about 3 different paddle clubs around like the North Circular, like around Enfield, and then this one in Ilford and wherever. And I think he bumped into another cab driver down there. He kept seeing a cab always down there. Who's this William or Bill? I don't know. I met him at the stuff, and he's doing a lot of stuff to promote it. And retreats and stuff, just another thing that cab drivers can come and do. And it was great, many female cab drivers there.
Well, this brings us back to our thing about, there's the social aspects of the job has disappeared to a certain extent because of all the big cafes have disappeared, like Great Suffolk Street and places like that. And really, you need to get out of the cab and socialise with other people, even if, not necessarily cab drivers, but you need to socialise with people because just driving around in a cab all the time and then going back home again does you no good whatsoever.
No,
you've got to socialise with other people. It
ticks a lot of boxes as well because you're getting that social factor, but you're also working out. Yeah. Ruben, who does a lot of the stuff with Get, who many drivers will know, he was there, and everyone was just having fun. There were some great images on the socials, and it's one of those sort of things you go and do, and you're like, I don't want to go to work now. I've had such a good time. I
might actually come along.
100%. Because it's.
I can't this week. I've got a full week this week coming up, so I'm going to the Horse Guards, aren't I? This week.
You are indeed with another.
I've been invited.
Driver,
with another social media cab driver, Cabby Karen. I'm going with, and Tom Scullion.
Yeah.
So we're going along to the Horse Guards to do a bit of filming there. So I've got a full week this week because I'm up in Oxford on Monday, doing that on Wednesday. I've got something on Tuesday morning, and I have got a tour to do on Friday. So I've got a full week this week coming. So yeah. So anyway, I think that's enough for this week. We've got plenty of stuff still to talk about in next week's show.
Yeah, next week we'll definitely talk about what we've learnt about the pedicabs, the whole licensing thing that's going on there, the full ins and outs. How does that compare with the cost of a taxi? How does that compare with the cost of what pedicabs were previously before this licensing? So we can't wait to go deep on that.
Also, quite a few questions over blackcab.com. One of the questions was, how is Lee going to afford to fund this if they're not charging the drivers any commission? I have no idea whatsoever, but we are going to have Lee DeCosta on a future show where hopefully we're going to have a live question and answer session where you can phone in and ask Lee whatever question you want. So we're trying to organise that at the moment, and I've just got to get my head around the technicalities of it.
Yeah, to give you a heads up on when we usually record these, we usually record around 9 and 10 in the morning. So if you do want to put yourself forward to, do a phone call or whatever, that's the hours that we will be doing this. So about 9 and 12, if you really do want to definitely get involved with this.
Yep. And everybody's welcome to come on and air their views and, tell us we're a pair of idiots or whatever. we already know that anyway.
I
don't
get
we,
enough
Tom?
of that. Yeah.
We already know that anyway. So we're not, we've got thick skins and it just goes over our head. So, until next one.
See you again.
That's all from me, Jamie the cabbie, and that's all from
me, Tom the taxi driver. Bish bash bosh.
See you next time. Be lucky.
Bye bye.